Well, hello, friends. Good evening, and welcome to the Cold War Preppers Tuesday night nonfiction post-apocalyptic book club. So we are working on the 2009 bestseller, James Wesley Rawles's book, "How to Survive the End of the World as We Know It," or better known as Teotwalki. He kind of originated the term, and it's tactics, techniques, and technologies for uncertain times. And gosh, uncertain times are rapidly approaching. So thank you all for being here. If this is your first time here, I would greatly appreciate you giving me a thumbs up at the end, at least, and subscribing. We would greatly like that. We have a fantastic community of people. I have the best moderators on the planet. I have the best subscribers on the planet. Really great conversations. Hello, Barrett Foley. Hello, CP, Prepper for the Ages, Magic Acres. Welcome. Now, please remember that the moderators give freely of their time. They're volunteers, not paid. They've been with me so long that I very intimately trust them. And I need to make some more. As a matter of fact, we've got some great people who follow the channel. And so we just ask that you be kind, polite, and respectful to each other. Trolls are not, we don't party trolls at all. You know, if you want to troll, we'll give you the opportunity to do that somewhere else rather than here, because we want you to be kind, polite, and respectful to each other here. Great knowledge in the chat, in the subscription chat room. Maggie, hello, welcome, Aussie Life. I was just thinking about you. I'm wondering if I needed to check up on you. Hadn't seen you in a couple of days. Gray Man Prepping Gil, welcome. Thank you for sending your people over. Okay. So Gray Man, Gil says that the term's been around since Mr. Rawls was 9 years old. I don't know how old he is, so he didn't originate it. But anyhow, Chef Tech 86, good evening, and with Mad Chick Acres as well. Welcome, good evening. So happy to see you. Gosh, we got 19 in chat already. Thank you so much for that. We started chapter 2 last week, and chapter 2 is a really great chapter in this book. It gives all kinds of lists of things that you need to go through. I don't want to do an extensive study of his list simply because I think this is a book worth you having in your library, and I would prefer that you buy it and read it and take the list to heart and build yourself a preparedness binder. So a preparedness binder is nothing more than an 8.5 by 11 3-ring binder with pages and divider tabs in it. And if you've been in this as long as Gil and I have, you may have several 3-inch 3-ring binders. I've got 2 3-ring binders of 3 inches of recipes alone. But then you've got all the other knowledge and everything else. And so he's going to give you some ideas on things to put in those 3-ring binders simply by asking questions and saying, have you considered this in your list? And that's what we're going through this evening. He was born in 1960. Wow. Okay. So he was a young pup. He's 8 years younger than I am. Okay, let me get my eyes on, and thank you all for being here. Greatly appreciate you. Let me see. Oh, so anyhow, we've got the severe thunderstorm warnings. We've got severe rain warnings. We lost power for about an hour last night. I didn't notice it. The only thing that noticed it was my coffee maker. And because we have that 1 second difference between when we lose power and when the solar system, the battery kicks in. So we've got a 1 second delay. Almost everything in the house can tolerate that 1 second delay. The only thing it doesn't is the clock on the coffee pot. So that's the only way I knew we lost power. I went back and checked in with what's the name of that company? Enphase. I went back and checked with Enphase Energy and found out that we had a 3-hour power loss last night. So, but we're continuing that today. We've got had really severe winds. I just before we got on, Helen was leaning over my shoulder, and we've had a couple houses lose the shingles on their roofs due to high velocity winds here in the neighborhood. We're very lucky. The arborist came and trimmed my trees this morning. I normally have my grass cut every other Friday. Martine came today on Tuesday, so everything's been taken care of before the rains, so we're good to go. Hello, Tibor 101. Great to see you. Welcome. So happy to see you. Yeah, Gil and I send each other people because we both support and agree and like what each other does. So, and as a matter of fact, Gil's leaving us. His grandsons just showed up. Yeah, that's a priority. I love my grandsons too. If they were here, that would be my priority as well. Okay, eyes on. Let's start with the questions. So we need to talk about livestock. If you live in an area where you're allowed to have livestock, and livestock can include anything. It can be cattle, horses, goats, emus, ostrich. What else? Sheep, rabbits. I don't know if anybody keeps squirrels or not, but you got squirrels in the neighborhood. Rabbits. All kinds of different livestock that you could keep. So there's a list of things you're going to need to take care of those. For example, milking stands, milking bottles, pasteurization equipment, SWAT fly repellent, nail clippers, copper tocks. I believe that's for cattle. How you're going to feed them, hay hooks, hay forks, how you're going to clean up after them, poop scoops and everything else. So it has a pretty good extensive list of all the different things you're going to need to take care of that livestock and where you're going to keep it. Then the next list that he talks about is hunting, fishing, and trapping list. He talks about buckshot, and I recommend that you have a wide variety of buckshot. I know that the Army uses double-aught for self-defense. I like 4-aught for self-defense. It has about 3 or 4 more pellets than does the double-aught. But for self-defense, I recommend some of the aught rounds. You want some smaller rounds, probably around the number 7 for birds. And then you want a little bit larger, maybe somewhere around a 5 or a 4 for turkeys and other ground fowl, squirrels and things like that. So you need various numbers of shot that you're going to maintain for that. He recommends having night vision gear, spares, maintenance, battery charging. I've got one low light scope on my Ruger. My Ruger Gunsight Scout has a low light scope because that's primarily a hog hunting scope and a hog hunting rifle. And then I do have a set of night vision binoculars, a set of a night vision monocle, monocular. There we go, monocular. And that's it. I just have those 3 night vision things. I would like to get some thermal stuff. But anyhow, there's a difference between like and able to afford. He comes up with a fantastic thing here that, I forgot until I reread this. And I bought this back in 2009. So I think, I finished reading it around my birthday, 2013. But anyhow, he says, instead of going out and chasing game, have the game come to you. So get a deer corn feeder, get a salt lick, get all these other different kinds of things and put them in your yard so that you're attracting the wild animals to you instead of you going out and having to chase after them. So that's kind of just a fantastic suggestion. I've got to go get some of that stuff and get it taken care of. So he says, sell all your fly fishing gear. I wholeheartedly agree. I don't have any fly fishing gear. There was a fly fishing store right down. Matter of fact, it was next doors to where I got my gold and silver. Right next door to Austin's Best Gold and Silver. And he has grown so big that now he has his own store. He manufactures his own equipment here in Round Rock. Hello, Devil Dog. Welcome. Let me see. Little on Prepper says, I wouldn't be able to handle a lot of large livestock, but I would like to have a couple of small Nubian goats and at least a dozen chickens. Chickens, I forgot to mention chickens. Yes, you're right. And there's 2 different types. One, they're the egg layers, and the other are for meat, basically. And then, of course, you got all kinds of waterfowl and other birds, edible birds and things like that. You also have to remember. Rebecca says she really likes her rabbits and chickens. Yes. And rabbits, I mean, rabbits are just a multiplier. So you can keep a steady supply of rabbits, and that would take care of most of your protein needs, I am quite certain. Uh, so, but he says, get rid of your fly fishing gear and instead get spin casting equipment. Get gigs, frog gigs, fish gigs, all those other kinds of things. I want to add to that I would say get some cast nets, get some trap nets. You can set up some fishing traps. I think I showed you the yo-yos that I have, and I also like jug fishing and trot lines. And so all of those are fantastic investments. You don't want to be standing on the shore with a spin casting reel or a bait caster or a spinning reel and trying to fish all day when you need to be out gathering wood, purifying water, taking care of your garden and your animals, defending your homestead and everything else. So instead of wasting your time fishing, use things kind of like the same thing he's saying with the salt licks and the deer corn. Have things that bring it to you or that do the work for you, so that all you have to do is then go out and take it. Same thing with snaring and trapping. That's a very wise way of doing it. Matter of fact, the frontiersmen used a lot of snares and traps, and then they would just go out and collect it after it had already been snared or trapped. So let me see. Maggie says that for freshwater, using corn soaked in garlic is great. We use sourdough, and sourdough is fantastic for catfish. As a matter of fact, on Brushy Creek, you don't find any catfish. You're going to get mostly panfish on Brushy Creek, but up up at the capital, the county capital, in Georgetown, they have one of the largest catfish was caught just off of I-35, the I-35 bridge, and right there by St. David's Hospital. I think they caught a 7-pound catfish there, channel cat. But anyhow, catfish are around here. They're just in the river, not necessarily in the creeks. Talks about power, lighting, and batteries list. I put out a 1-minute short on that today. That was Dave Canterbury's C for candle power. And so I put out a 1-minute video on that. I put out a more extensive one a couple of weeks ago on lanterns and candles, and make sure you have make sure you take into consideration both area needs as well as pinpoint needs. I am a big, fond believer, since I have discovered them, of what are they called? Not a flashlight, but it's a headlamp. There we go. Of headlamps. I really love headlamps. As a matter of fact, I have a new one. I just tried out. I got to call the company because I can't get the white light to come on. I can get the red light to come on, but I can't get the white light to come on. But I just bought it, and it looked good. It's 750 lumens, so I figured that'd be good. But I just can't get it to work. So I got to call the company to find out what I'm doing wrong and possibly get a replacement. But remember, area as well as pinpoint. So for area, those are going to be things like candles. You've also got area lights. This one from Nebo is fantastic. It's called the Slide. So it can either be a flashlight, okay, or you can pull up here and it becomes an area light. And then it has this really powerful magnet at the base that you can use. So that's a fantastic light to have. And that one works off of AA batteries. And so then the other point that he makes here that I put also in my short was, make sure if you have, I prefer to have USB rechargeable lights. As a matter of fact, I had one go out on me today, and I put it on the computer here and recharged it while Ellen and I went shopping at Costco. And if not, then if you're going to have something that needs the larger batteries like AAAs or AA's, then what you want to do, and this one takes three AAAs that are kind of in a little cartridge that you put together. But anyhow, if you're going to get those, make sure you have a recharging system that you can hook up to a solar system, and that way you can keep all your batteries recharged all the time. Let me see. He says also consider propane appliances, tri-fuel generators, kerosene lamps. Get plenty of extra wicks, mantles, chimneys, and of course fuel. So, it's going to take liquid fuel. Then he comes up with the fuels list. And so I will tell you, my fuels list is rather simple. I've got two 35-gallon trash cans full of charcoal out in the backyard. I've got two more, I think it's 30-pound bags in the garage. I use the Safe Heat, which I get at Sam's. And I believe that's 12 of those for like $19 or something like that. They're fairly inexpensive, but they're the ones you use on the chef line, like at a hotel when they're fixing your are keeping things warm in the serving trays. So they are safe for indoor use. Then I also get the butane that is for the single burner stove that they use, same thing at the at hotels for breakfast when they, the chef is doing or the cook is doing your eggs. So I keep plenty of bottles of those. Then I have 1 pound propane tanks. And the 1 pound propane tanks are primarily for my Mr. Buddy heater, but they can also be used for other things. I have an adapter where I can put basically a stove burner on top with 4 arms that are going to hold a pot or pan on top of it, or a coffee pot. And so I'm primarily looking at charcoal, Safe Heat, propane, and butane, and I've got some white gas still. I've got an old Coleman 2-burner stove, and I've got an old Coleman lantern, and both of them use white gas. So I do have some white gas left as well, some white gas appliances. So taking into consideration all those different things, here's something I really want you to pay attention to. All of those are highly flammable and can be explosive. So you don't want to store those in an area like your garage or anywhere else if it's going to get very hot. You want to have those a distance away from your home in an area where if they catch on fire, they aren't going to burn your home down or anything else. Please remember to be safe with those kinds of things. So, just be cautious. Anytime you have any kind of a flammable or explosive material around, just be cautious with that. And you don't want to lose your home because you are preparing to keep your home warm. Always keep your vehicles and everything else at least 2/3 full. As a matter of fact, when we were at Costco today, Helen said, I want to go to Walmart tomorrow. So I said, okay, well, we've got a choice. We can go to Costco this evening for gas or Walmart tomorrow for gas. And I figured, well, we needed to get home so I could be here. I wanted to get home in time to support Gil because he is so gracious. He has his channel is right before this, and that's Green Man Prepping. So he moved his to precede us so that he could recommend his people come here. So I wanted to be home in time that I could support Gil. So we didn't gas up at Costco today. We'll gas up at Walmart tomorrow. Stock up on firewood or coal. So that's the other. I have 2 more 35-gallon buckets that I keep firewood in. And then I have a couple tarps. Okay. And the reason I have a couple tarps is because I realize that it takes 6 months to cure freshly cut wood before you can burn it safely without giving off obnoxious smoke. I mean, if it's still green, it's going to smoke like you would not believe. And you'll get embers and everything else. So I have a couple tarps that I've purchased just for the sole purpose of once I get wood and split that wood, I'm going to cover it with the tarps so that if it rains or snows, I'm not going to have to worry about having wet wood. So I buy that cover, and that's the one that's coming out for tomorrow's. It's the last of Dave Canterbury's 10 C's of Bushcraft Survival is going to be cover. And so I've got a 1-minute short video coming out tomorrow. Pepper tip number 58, cover. And one of the things you need to cover is your wood pile. So don't forget your wood pile. Says make sure you have plenty of wood processing equipment, chainsaw, axe, hatchet, splitting maul or splitting wedge, all those different things. I would really love to have an old stump that I could use as a cutting location. But as it is, I have a 2x8 that I use to cut on. So, but you don't want to, be driving your axe or hatchet or anything into the ground that can kind of dull it and rust it, and a couple other things. He says, make sure you have Kevlar chainsaw safety chaps, gloves, goggles, earmuffs, wear a logger's helmet when felling. So I want to talk about his safety precaution here, getting the chainsaw safe chaps. I did an extensive study when I was looking at what do I need to worry about as far as first aid in a post-apocalyptic world. And so I said, well, it's pretty much going to be the same as people going out camping right now. So you're in your own home and you're basically going to be camping inside your home in a hunkered down type of a situation. Great idea, Maggie, a chainsaw sharpener. Hello, North Carolina farmer. Welcome back. So anyhow, when I did a research on the most common injuries sustained while camping, number one was burns. And that makes sense because, we're going to have people starting fires that don't know how to start fires, trying to cook on an open fire, all kinds of things that happen. And if you go back to as late as the 19th century, the two most common causes of death for women were number one, childbirth, and number two, fire. And the reason is because they had these open hearth areas where they had the charcoal or they had the coals, the embers from the fire, and they had long flowing dresses, and their dress would catch on fire. They would touch one of those coals and so they would die of the infection as a result of fire. So make sure you have plenty of fire first aid equipment. Number two are cuts from chopping wood, from wood processing. And so, you're going to have that hatchet or axe, and most people aren't really that safe with them and don't understand everything, how to use them, how to split wood and everything else. And so you can get some pretty horrendous gashes, even with a knife processing wood. So, make sure that you have all the safety equipment that you're going to need to include. And Maggie, Aussie Life, was kind enough to send me a set of puncture-proof gloves for processing wood. So yes, and even the gloves, so you don't cut yourself or anything else while you're processing wood or getting splinters. And splinters was another one of those medical things that they talked about for camping accidents. So, that's going to be very important as well, because, that can cause infection, and small infections can cause major problems. And I think I harped enough on getting a tetanus shot last week. So let me see. The next one is a firefighting list. So, there's a lot of things that I think I have well covered. I think I've got if I have a fire in my house, I think I've got it covered. We have a fire extinguisher in every room. We have, a fire safety mat. We have a lot of good stuff. I have a 3-gallon pump, and it's actually a bug sprayer, but I just fill it up with water so that way I have basically a pump sprayer. If I lose water pressure, I can't use the household hose. But, with this pump sprayer, I can use it and spray up and get some areas where there might be some embers. I think I've got it as well covered as I can get it on my own in a post-apocalyptic world. However, there's only 12 feet between my house and the house next door's. Do they have the firefighting that they need for their home? So I have to constantly be aware of that things that happen over there are going to affect me here in a post-apocalyptic world. Hello, Jack, welcome. Hill Summit Homestead from Australia. And I guess it's tomorrow morning where you are already. So welcome from the future. But anyhow, so if you live in an urban suburban area and there's other houses fairly close to you, and if you live in a rural area and you have grass, if you have trees or anything that's very close to your home, just be aware that is a fire hazard that you need to take into account in your plans on how you're going to survive in a post-apocalyptic world. So I would say 11:20 in the morning, huh? So you're about ready to go towards noon there in Australia. Wow. So anyhow, so firefighting. He recommends updating with a metal roof. Unfortunately, I have a homeowners association. They even tell us what types of shingles and what colors we have to have. Get a 2-inch diameter water line from a gravity-fed tank so that you have enough pressure to get up to the second floor if necessary. Make sure you have smoke and carbon monoxide detectors. We have smoke detectors in almost every room. I have 2 carbon monoxide detectors. And so this one, I keep this one here, and then the other one is in the kitchen. Now, I keep both of my carbon monoxide detectors at waist level. And let me explain to you why. Let me put it back. Carbon monoxide is slightly heavier than air. So given the opportunity, carbon monoxide is going to go, whoa, dog hair. Whoa. So carbon monoxide is going to sink in relative to breathable oxygen. You also have the smoke from the fire, and smoke, of course, is slightly lighter than oxygen or than breathable air, our nitrogen oxygen system that we breathe. So it is going to rise. So under ideal situations, you've got this natural breathable area in between the two. You've got the carbon monoxide down below, the smoke up above. You should be able to see the smoke. So the reason I keep my carbon monoxide detector at waist level is I know that as long as I am down on my knees and getting out on my knees and the carbon monoxide detector is not going off, I know I'm safe. Smoke's up here, carbon monoxide is down below where my face is, and I'm good to go. Another thing you can do is Mira Safety has a fantastic smoke mask that they sell, and you can get one of those. So we have one of those for each of us as well. And that same mask, by the way, you can buy different filters for it, and they're the regular NATO screw-on filters. So right now I have the smoke filters. You can also get CBRN filters that are good for chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear protection. And so the same mask, just different filters. And make sure you get plenty of filters. Let me see here. Let me catch up with some of the chat from where we are. Gosh, there's a lot of chat since the last time I checked it. I'm so sorry. Okay, so we've got Tammy Harder. I would rather eat chicken or fish than rabbit. This little Pepper saying that. I like pork too, but I know I wouldn't be able to process a pig. One of the things is we have plenty of wild pig here. As a matter of fact, you don't even need a license to hunt wild pig here in Texas because it's such a big problem to the environment. So Mad Chick's talking about sterno. I don't know if sterno itself is safe for indoor use, but the safe heat is. Sterno, I have a whole bunch of sterno that I can use for outdoor in a sterno can. Now, I do another one. As a matter of fact, I've got to melt some paraffin tomorrow because I've cut up all the cardboard. I call it a Boy Scout stove, and it's very safe for outdoor use. But what you do is you take a tuna can, use a safe opener, which is the side opener on a can opener, so that you can put the lid back on, basically, and it'll cover it. Cut yourself some cardboard, about 1/8 of an inch smaller than the height of the opening of the tuna can. Roll that up so that all the spines are pointing up and down. And then once you get that all rolled up inside there, that becomes your wick. And then you're going to take some melted paraffin and pour in and soak that with melted paraffin, let it solidify. That becomes your stove. And that's just one big candle with a big flame. And it'll last you quite a while. I think they last on average about 6 or 8 hours of burning time. Now, you have to be careful. That tuna can gets really hot. So treat it like an ember, or treat it like something that's extremely hot, a frying pan or anything like that. I have little sterno stoves. And so if you use the tuna can, that's the same diameter as a can of sterno. So it works perfectly in a sterno stove. Just trying to get that, you got to get some pliers and stick that lid in there over the top of it, because the only way you can put it out is either let it burn out or snuff it out with that lid. So those are your two options. But yeah, that's another fantastic way of doing that. Utah Mike says to get sardines in oil. The oil is flammable. Yes, it is. Uh, here's something that doesn't make any sense to me, and I'm sure somebody will probably disagree. There are a lot of videos out there on how you can use Crisco to make an emergency candle. And there are people who are buying Crisco for the sole purpose of making it into a candle. You don't make Crisco into a candle. You make it into an emergency candle. So once your Crisco has gone rancid and you can't eat it, that's when you want to use it for a candle. The primary purpose of Crisco is to eat, to cook. Okay. Now, you have the opportunity now to buy candles, emergency candles. Buy emergency candles while you can for light. Buy Crisco for cooking. And then once the Crisco goes rancid, then you can use it for a candle, because otherwise you would just throw it away. But use things for what they're originally intended for, and then you have alternatives to that in case you need to in the future. So that's my personal point of view. Chicken liver for catfish. Yes, they like anything that's foul smelling, basically. If the worse it smells, the more they're attracted to them. Let me see. I haven't had turtle either. So, and Maggie says chainsaw sharpener. Yep, all kinds of sharpening equipment. As a matter of fact, while I was watching Gil's show earlier, right before mine, I was actually honing my knife. So, and one of the things that I recommend you can do, I can't do that on live. I can't open it. One of the things I do when I hone my knife is I have a Sharpie, one of these big Sharpies. Okay. And so on the bevel where the blade is, I will color that with this broad tipped Sharpie and let it dry. And then I know I've got the right angle in my honing when I'm drawing off that Sharpie as I'm honing. And so if I'm only getting a little bit of tip, I need to lay it down a little bit further. So, and then if I'm getting only at the base of the bevel, then I need to raise it up a little bit. So it will give you everything you need to know about how to properly hone your knife. And I do 10, 10, 9, 9, 8, 8. And then when I get down to 1, I do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10. And then I can cut paper with it. And it only takes me about 5 minutes. And I've got my knife honed back to a perfect edge. Let me see. Oh, wow. So Tibor says that using nylon hose is good for keeping chicken liver on the hook. Wow. Yeah, splinters and poison ivy. Any kind of poisonous plant is going to be a problem. I had one. I fell on a porcupine, and I was working for the Forestry Service over one summer, and we were doing a fire break. We were clearing a fire break, and I swung my axe, and then when I swung my axe, a chip hit a porcupine, and the porcupine bolted, which scared me, and I kind of lost my balance, and I fell. When I fell with my wrist on top of the porcupine. Let me tell you something. Do not try to pull porcupine quills out of your arm. That is extremely painful, because they inject basically some air into those quills so that it causes a suction, so that when you pull them out, it hurts. So what the medic did when I went down to the first aid tent, the medic took his bandage shears and cut the quills in half to let that air out of the quill. And then when he pulled them out, it wasn't quite as painful as when I was grabbing them by the handful and pulling them out. So I learned a lesson, but yeah, so careful with porcupine quills. Poison oak, poison ivy, poison sumac are the three big ones here in the here in this part of the U.S. Matter of fact, I just explained that to my grandson. He called us over the weekend, Saturday, I think it was, and he said, "Grandpa, leaflets 3 poison ivy." I said, "Well, actually, the way he said leaves 3 poison ivy." I said, "Well, the way I learned it was leaflets 3, let it be." So that applies to both poison oak and poison ivy. So. Yes, absolutely. Thank you, T-Boy. Great suggestion. Um, Rebecca says she has a lot of first aid, and that's going to be extremely important. I think those are going to be very, very valuable information to have, and I think it'll be a very marketable skill. Let me see. Jack says that wild pigs are excellent pork, um, too wild tasting or whatever. Uh, I don't. The only thing that I'm afraid of is some of the diseases that are out there, and so we have ours tested once we process it. Let's see. Hello, ex NYC OG prepper. Welcome. Good to see you, my friend. I agree, Phaeoxerus. Bad processing, not getting it cleaned out quick enough, not field dressing it well, not bleeding it properly. I mean, there's all kinds of things that can happen. Not caring for it, letting it sit out in the sun. There's all kinds of things you can do wrong with processing your meat that's going to cause you major problems. Really, when I went to Dell flew me from here to Tokyo, and Tokyo had headquarters Dell Asia Pacific. Then they flew me to Dell Hong Kong, and when I was at Hong Kong, because I was the honored guest, I got to eat the fish eyes. That they have a whole fish that they bring out to the table, and I got to eat the eyes as the honored guest. Then they also brought out some, what's it called? But they're tentacles off of a jellyfish tentacles, and they cook those. But it was kind of like eating plastic. And I tell you what, it's something else. Oh, so somebody asked. Hope you're feeling better. What happened is yesterday morning I went out to water my garden, and I tripped over either my shoes or my hose or just old age. I don't know. And I did cartwheels in the backyard, and then finally ended up landing on my hip that has a total hip replacement. So I have a titanium hip, and it's still a little bit tender, because of the bruising effect. But I had some problems walking. It seemed to cause a little bit of pain when I walked. But it's like it snapped it back into place or something, like I had accidentally knocked it out at some point in the last year, and the fall kind of jolted it back into place. It's just the bruise from the fall now that is the painful part, but the hip itself, the hip joint, is feeling great. But last night it was difficult getting comfortable after our discussion, and I'm beginning to worry about, gosh, I forgot so many of the laws from HR. Can you believe I have a master's degree in HR management, and I forgot all the laws last night when we were talking about that? But I'm going to say I'm going to attribute it to the pain. How's that? Can I get by with that? Jack says that kangaroo tastes like veal when those glands are gone, with razorbacks taste like regular pork after those glands are removed. Probably. Well, that's the only one I'm going to admit to ever seeing, and I hope I never see another one, to be honest with you. And Maggie says, glad that my hip went back in. Boy, so am I. It just doing great. Now, the other thing is, with all this weather that we've had, it has kind of cleared the smoke, because in the Yucatan Peninsula, for when they get ready to start their cropping and everything, once a year they burn their crops, and we used to do that in El Paso for our grass. When the fall came and the grass turned brown, we would burn it and then let that carbon and everything get back into the ground, and it would fertilize it so that you can get a lot greener grass with a lot less water come the spring. And so they still practice that down in the Yucatan and Central America. All that smoke comes up here. And so if you have a lung disease like I do, then of course that smoke really causes problems. Because of all the rain and all the wind and everything else we've had for the last 24 hours, no problems with the smoke. So I'm really happy about that. So my lungs are clearing up there. Okay, tactical living list. Adjust your wardrobe towards sturdy earth tone clothing. Um, Avoid political statements, like my shirt. So this is, of course, 1984, and it says government is not the solution. Government is the problem. Uh, I get a lot of looks in the liberal part of the area when I wear shirts like this. Dyes, stock up on some boxes of green and brown cloth dye so you can kind of camouflage things. You want 2-inch burlap strip material in green and brown. You can use that to wrap things, especially metallic things like anything you want to hide from people seeing that may have shiny or metallic or obvious shapes. Uh, Save wine corks because you can burn those, and that makes great facial camouflage. Just all kinds of stuff. Don't forget your insect repellent, insect sting medications. Don't forget your insecticides. All those different kinds of things you're going to have concerning insects and all that stuff. Make sure you have red light capabilities. So that's, oops, I already put it back over there. That's the one I was charging. It has a red light on it. That's great for reading at night so you don't ruin your night vision. We used it an awful lot in the military. The bad thing about using a red filter light or a red light in nighttime, it saves your night vision, which is great. But if you have anything that's written in red, you can't read it. So if you have a topographic map, and usually topographic maps are going to have highways in red, and so sometimes you don't find the highway you're looking for if you're using a red light flashlight in a tactical situation. Make sure that you understand how to practice noise, light, and litter discipline. Finally, security, general list of security locks, intrusion detection, alarm systems, exterior obstacles, fences, gates. One of the things you can do, and you can get them on Amazon as well, and that is you can order a whole bunch of padlocks that have the same key. And so I've done that. I've got 2 sets of, I'm not sure if it's a half dozen or a dozen padlocks, master locks, that all use the same key. So I have 2 different keys for a total of maybe somewhere between 12 and 24 padlocks, so that if I need to padlock things, I only need to carry 1 or 2 keys, but I can open all of my padlocks. Okay. And most other people aren't going to know that if you get 1 key, you've got them all. They're going to think that it's just another padlock. No, I did not see that, but oh wow, that would be great. I'll look forward to that too. Let me see here. Yeah, unfortunately, Rebecca, that's one of the things about we have a stability class that we go to on Tuesdays, and so Monday, Wednesday, Friday is what they call old farts training, and it's called silver sneakers. So we do 20 minutes of exercise using stretch bands, 20 minutes of exercises using weights, and then 20 minutes of exercising using a squishy, kind of like the dodgeball we used to have in the on the playground when it was allowed. And so we practiced tossing it and passing it and everything else to get agility. We also do a lot of standing on 2 feet with your hands behind your back and things like that, trying to maintain stability. Now, stability class on Tuesdays is nothing but stability, and how to maintain your balance while walking sideways, backwards, your hands in different positions above your head, all that kinds of stuff. So on 1 foot, standing on 1 foot for prolonged periods of time. It's all, just how can an old fart survive in this world? He talks about range cards and sector sketches. So for those of you who don't know what a range card is, if you live in an urban or suburban area and you're going to have semi-long distances. Now for me, the longest shot that I'm going to have around here is probably going to be 100 yards. So I don't need to really have a range card that much. But if it's going to get to the point to where you're going to have, let's say, shots out at 350 yards or shots at versus 25 yards. And you know that you have to elevate your barrel the further out it goes because you're going to have an arc, right? The bullet's going to start falling over time. So you want to know the distance out there to that target, and you keep a little record of, oh, from here to Sam's house, to the left corner of Sam's house is 325 yards. So that's the adjustment I need to make in order to hit something properly at that range. Okay, so you're going to have you're going to map out your area and distance to certain things that you know, so that you can use that to adjust the range setting on your rifle when you're shooting at an object at that distance. Okay, so that's the purpose of a range card. Then he talks about having plenty of self-defense items, whether it be bow and arrow, a crossbow, self-defense firearms, non-firearm self-defense, such as tomahawk, knife, all those different kinds of things. So then he recommends making sure you also have your eye and ear protection, cleaning equipment for anything that you have that needs to be taken care of, and sharpening equipment if appropriate. So each rifle and pistol must have at least 6 top quality magazines in addition to the one that's in the weapon, so a total of at least 7. Then he talks about communications and monitoring, and so radios. I did a video on radios. There are several that you need to have. You need to have the capability for all band amplitude modulation. Sweet iced tea fixes everything. You need to have amplitude modulation capabilities. That's primarily going to be from 3 megahertz up to around 30 megahertz. You're going to need to have frequency modulated capabilities. That's going to be usually from 30 megahertz up to 3,000 megahertz or 3 gigahertz. You're also going to have continuous wave, which is what Morse code is. That's going to primarily be anywhere from 300 kilohertz up to 30 megahertz. So you want to have those 3 modulations: continuous, single sideband, AM, and FM. I recommend that you have GMRS radio, an FRS radio, a CB radio, a ham radio. Make sure you're capable of picking up NOAA, National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration, weather information, NOAA. And if you can get a scanner, that is fantastic as well. So you want to have a wide variety of listening capabilities. I will tell you, there's an awful lot of people who, for some reason, are placing an awful lot of emphasis on the Baofeng UV5R and the Yaesu YE6, which are the repeater-dependent ham radios in the UHF-VHF range. I should say that the other way around. VHF is lower than UHF. In the VHF-UHF range. But remember that these are duplex radios, so they have what's called an offset. So you plug in your primary frequency, that's what you're going to be receiving on or transmitting on, and then it has an offset where you're going to be receiving. So you're transmitting on one frequency, receiving on another. That's what allows that repeater to take your message and retransmit it. So it's receiving your message on one frequency, then retransmitting it on the other. Same thing with you. You're receiving it on that retransmit frequency, okay? So you've got to make sure that you have a repeater working in order for that to work. Now, so you can use it in a walkie-talkie type of a mode, but you're going to have a very limited range. That's only going to be about 12 miles. One of the things you need to consider when we're talking about radios, the horizon's about 12 miles, and that's going to be most of your communications is going to be line of sight, visual horizon. It can be interfered with by buildings, by natural terrain, mountains, trees, all those kinds of things can interfere with radio transmissions as well as reception. So you want to, when we say 12 miles, that's wide open terrain. Okay. However, the way you can get around that is by getting your antenna up higher. So the higher you get your antenna up, the further you're going to be able to see and hear. And I'm going to say that my primary concern in a post-apocalyptic world is not necessarily transmitting, it's receiving, because I'm afraid that I don't want to be DF'd or direction found by people who are looking for people like me. I don't want them to know that I'm still alive and well and in my house. I would rather be quiet and just listen to them instead of them listening to me. Make sure that you have 12-volt capable systems. So that you can work on a car battery or anything like that. A lot of these are available as mobile devices in your vehicle so that you can run it off of the 12-volt battery in your vehicle. Some of the other things that he recommends: tools, gardening, auto mechanic, welding, bolt cutters, woodworking, gunsmithing, hand crank, treadle-powered grinding wheels, work gloves. So I have a Scotch auger, which is basically it's a bushcraft tool, and it's basically an awl, and you're going to use it to drill a hole. Then around the other end it has an eye, and so you drive that down over a rod so that you get a perfectly matched round dowel to insert into the hole you made with the auger. Okay, so it's basically, think of it as a mortise and tenon type of a thing. Really, really great. I watched a video, and this guy hand carved using his Scotch auger a pulley, and he made a block and tackle using his Scotch auger. And I thought, well, I don't want to have to hand carve that. So, but it did tell me I need to buy a couple pulleys and get those in my. I don't have any weightlifting equipment or anything like that in my storage right now in my prepper equipment. I need to get some. But if I had to make some, how would I make a pulley? How would I make that round thing? So it caused me to think, how do I make a lathe? So there are several videos on YouTube. I mean, you can find almost anything on YouTube. So I watched a couple of videos on how to make a foot pedal lathe. And so now if I can get a foot pedal lathe made, then I basically can get a perfectly round pulley and get that channel carved in the middle for the rope, get the center hole with my auger. Everything's working. So I think it's going to be great. It looks like great. So let me see what else. Make sure you have plenty of work gloves. Then he talks about his sundries list. Then he has a barter and charity list. And he has greater detail on this in chapter 13. But one of the things is he is one of the guys that convinced me to get the pre-1965 silver dimes. And that's the mercury dimes. So I would say the vast majority of my silver is in mercury dimes. Simply because he placed so much emphasis on it in all three of his fiction books. And so I would say that's where the vast majority of mine is the mercury dimes. But he gives all kinds of things: gas stabilizer, thermal socks. I mean, great ideas on things to have and what you need to have. Rope, string, monofilament fishing line, parachute cord, cooking spices, candle wax, candle wicks, all that kinds of stuff. And so he's just a fantastic list of all kinds of things to have. So let's see if I've caught up with it here. PBS shop, the Woodwright shop features a treadle lathe. Oh, wow. And other manual powered tools. Great. Let me write that down. Woodwright's shop. Thank you, Kaylin, for sharing that. All right. What do you hope gets seen? That one you just talked about? I will definitely search that out. Stray Kitten says her question was removed. Let me see. I saw it pop away as soon as you posted it, Stray Kitten. I thought you had removed it. Go ahead and put it back up, Stray Kitten. Okay, So that's where we are. This coming Thursday, we do have our fiction book that we'll be discussing, and that's Glenn Tate's 299 Days of Preparation. Let me tell you, I told you all last night, that reminds me an awful lot of John Forsythe's Pillars of the Earth. It took me a while to get into it, but once you get into it, you can't put it down. This one, it takes about 10, 11 chapters worth of preliminaries, getting all the characters and everything set up. And then once you hit chapter 12, chapter 13, it's just boom, boom, boom. There is so much good prepping information in here, so much good information about the Federal Reserve, about politics, about how state government is run. I mean, it is a phenomenal book. I am totally happy with it. I hope you can join me Thursday night. I have a feeling that either Glenn Tate and or Jack Spurko might be joining us Thursday night. And we'll see what happens there. Jack Spurko, of course, you all know him. He is probably one of the best preppers around. And he did the intro to this book, and he is mentioned in this book. Glenn Tate gives him a lot of credit for a lot of the stuff that he's learned about prepping from Jack Spurko. So as a matter of fact, I was watching Jack's channel earlier today, on his blog earlier today. Great vlog. Really knows his stuff, and is very easy to pass it on to those of us who need information like that. But let's go ahead, and I think Stray Kitten, why don't you go ahead and post that question again? Well, it must be something that YouTube doesn't like, because everybody's saying they aren't removing it. Try rewording it, because there are certain keywords that if you use a certain word, YouTube will automatically censor it. As a matter of fact, they have a brand new AI censoring system. They just went into effect yesterday, and so the video, the 1 minute short that I put out today, candles and lighting, originally that had extremely limited distribution because it said it violated YouTube censorship requirements. And so, but there's now a function where you can immediately ask that it be viewed. So when it was viewed by a human being, they said, we don't see what AI saw wrong with it. So I got full monetization on it. But YouTube right now is going through a period of testing this new AI censorship program. So it could be that, and we'll just have to see how we see how that goes. Okay. Yeah, I have a feeling that you may be right about that. And Jack says he had 2 books that were banned, one from the U.S. and the other from a group in exile. One of my favorite books for survival, bushcraft survival, is the Boy Scout Field Book, a field manual. I think it's probably one of the best out there. And I've got the 1947 edition, I believe, is what I used when I was in Scouts. And I looked on YouTube, on Amazon, and there's even newer versions out there, but just an outstanding, all around great bushcraft book. So if you're looking for something for bushcraft and surviving in the wild, I strongly recommend the Boy Scout Bushcraft Field Book, and that is available on Amazon. Well, I'll tell you what, Little Lone Prepper, you have my email, and I think you also have my phone number. So you can, why don't we do it this way? Go ahead and send me that question either by email or by phone, and I will make sure we get it answered, if not Thursday, then next week, okay? But I have a feeling that you're being victimized by YouTube. Okay. Okay. And Rebecca's got a hearty endorsement for 299 day series. So that's great. We may, now that I am falling in love with this book, we may do volume 2 of 299 days for the July book club. So let me make that decision before Thursday. And if I do decide that I want to do that on Thursday, I will announce it then, and I'll put up a link where you can get that on Amazon as well. I have 2 good pieces of information for those of you who are here in Central Texas. Okay, I got an email today from Kathy Lockwood, who is the CEO of Shelf to Table, and oh gosh, so they make these things. So this one happens to be freeze-dried chicken enchilada soup. The one thing I like most about Shelf to Table is they've got meatloaf, they've got sausage links, so that's why I primarily order from them. They've got freeze-dried. Oh gosh, come on, Lee. What's it called? Sloppy Joe. Sloppy Joe. They got freeze-dried Sloppy Joe with the beef already in it. I mean, so this order that I just got in was chuck wagon chili with beans and beef, chicken enchilada soup, 2 freeze-dried Sloppy Joes, Asian chicken fried rice and vegetables, 2 half-inch diced ham, 2 quarter-inch diced ham, and 2 dried meatloaf cooked, sliced. And so anyhow, but I talked to her. She's going to give a 10% discount for people who attend my preparedness outdoor extravaganza coming up the 15th of June at the Springs Pavilion at the San Gabriel Park in Georgetown, Texas. So if you're in the area and can drop by Georgetown, Texas, San Gabriel Park, it's on the San Gabriel River, the Springs Pavilion, right across from the restrooms. We're going to be there from 2 until 9 p.m. We're going to be talking about water collection, purification, and storage. We're going to have some samples of food from courtesy of Eric Christensen and Becky Goff. Guff, like it rhymes with tough. Becky Guff from Nutrient Survival. They're sending us some foods to sample, and they're also sending some pass out literature. That pass out literature will have a 20% discount code for everybody who is at that event on Saturday, June 15th. So if you're in the area and you can make it, please drop by Saturday, June 15th. You get coupons for 10% off from Shelf to Table, 20% off for Nutrient Survival. And I'm trying to talk my friend Roman, who owns Mira Safety, to come out and do a display as well. We'll see if that works out or not. His company is really growing fast. But anyhow, it's so big that, as a matter of fact, he just had to move from the smaller facility to a bigger one. It's a little bit more towards Austin and less in the Round Rock area than where he had been. But we're trying to get some good people out there to help us with this and sponsor it. I think I might have the county extension agent coming out and talking about how to decompose human waste, human manure, and so that we can have safety in our waste disposal in a post-apocalyptic world. So it's going to be fun. I hope some of you can come and join us. In the meantime, I better read this instead of trying to use my memory. But this Numbers, Book of Numbers, chapter 6, verses 24, 25, 26. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord let his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord look upon you kindly and give you peace. So remember, thank you all so much for being here. Thank you for the way you interact with each other. Thank you for being part of the team. I think we can all count on each other and help each other through this. Suspicious observers, watch him. We do have the sunspot that produced all the M and X class solar flares a week and a half ago is going to be Earth facing in the next 3 days. Yesterday, and this was at a 90-degree angle away from the Earth, But yesterday it did produce an X10 class, which is a Carrington level event, class CME. So I would encourage you to keep your eyes on Suspicious Observer, and he will tell you every morning about what's going on with the CMEs and the solar flares that are going on. So thank you all so much for taking care of each other. Thank you for respecting each other. Thank you for being here and supporting the channel. Greatly, greatly appreciate. So everybody, please take care, stay safe, and we'll see you Thursday evening at 8 o'clock. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.